If you really insist, then, here it is.
What do you have there?
It happens to be an e-handbook. I found it laying on the ground, so I scooped it up.
You found it on the ground, right? And it must belong to... Oh, it's mine. Chihiro?
I got it!
Stimmt, weil das war
We
ja
know
verschwunden.
Chihiro's handbook was missing from the scene of the crime, right?
For a fact.
For a fact indeed. I was totally sure I'd found it.
Then it must hold some clue about the culprit, right?
Well, that's what I was hoping. But it's busted. It won't even turn on.
I imagine the culprit broke it to get rid of any evidence after the murder.
That's odd. I didn't think the handbooks were quite so fragile.
You're right. They're not. They're totally waterproof and shock resistant. It would take an awful lot to break one.
And yet, this one does appear to be broken, as is Leon's, sitting useless in the main hall. For all your confidence, that is a remarkably high failure rate.
Do you think there might be some kind of mystery in there somewhere?
Oh, there is indeed.
How precisely did the handbooks get broken?
How did the handbook break? There's only one possible explanation. By hitting its weak point.
I got it! You already told us before that the handbook has one weak point,
Yes,
didn't
you did tell us that.
You remember that? Sure, maybe I let that slip. But I never told anyone what the weak point actually was.
But if the handbook is supposed to never break, and two of them broke in quick succession, then...
Then we can only assume that someone's figured out its weakness. You know what the weakness is, right, Monokuma? So, what is it?
You're asking me?
I think it's a necessary piece of information if you want this to be a fair trial.
But if I tell you, and someone else decides to copy it, that would be very not good.
Very not good.
Just tell us already! Why would we want to break our own handbooks?
Oh well, I have a weakness for pushy demands. But you're sure you won't follow their example? Then allow me to make a special announcement. The weak point of my cutting-edge e-handbook is... When it's exposed to high temperatures for too long, it will suffer a meltdown and totally break!
I flippin' knew it!
You knew it?
Yeah, because I found the handbook laying on the floor of the sauna.
The temperature in the sauna can reach over 200 degrees. Strange how you don't get burnt, huh? It's because as your sweat evaporates, it creates a cooling layer of air around your
Yeah,
skin.
cool. Thanks for explaining how a sauna works.
If the hot air of the sauna were somehow pushed directly onto your skin, you'd definitely get fried. That layer of air would get blown away. That's why you may feel a burning when you move around. So when you're in a sauna, make sure to keep nice and still.
Interesting. I learned one new fact today.
I learned one new fact today.
That is a mere trifling speck of knowledge.
Anyway, if you found the
Anyway.
victim's handbook in the sauna, then the killer must have been purposely trying to raise its temperature in order to break it.
Meaning the culprit somehow knew its weakness.
But how'd they find out? Monokuma
yeah.
said he didn't tell anyone, right?
Indeed. Quite the mystery.
What if they found out by accident?
What do you mean by accident?
What if the killer took their own handbook into the sauna, not knowing its weakness, and it broke? They'd realize it was broken, of course, and it wouldn't be hard to figure out why. And once they had Chihiro's handbook, they knew they had an easy way to dispose of it.
I won't say it's not possible, but who would have done something like that? I don't know of anyone who took their handbook into the sauna.
Well,
I might know someone who did.
Whoa! Seriously?
I think the one who may have taken their handbook into the sauna was...
who might have brought their handbook into the sauna? It had to be the one who wore all their clothes into the sauna. That was motherfucking Mondo.
Here's my answer! Mondo, your handbook got broken in the sauna, didn't it?
What? Why? Why do you keep accusing him?
Mondo and Taka had an endurance contest in the sauna not too long ago, remember? And for the contest,
picture, man.
Mondo just so happened to keep his school uniform on. But little did he realize, he'd also left his handbook in one of his uniform pockets. And when it was all over, Mondo discovered that taking your handbook into the sauna could easily destroy it.
No, wait, hold on. You've got it all wrong. He would never I don't accept this. Show me the proof. The actual solid proof.
I mean, I don't want to believe it either. But I found something that proves it beyond a shadow of a doubt. Did I? Ooh, coole Musik.
Let's test Makoto's assertion. If what he says is correct, then Mondo, you broke your own handbook.
In other words, if Mondo's handbook is actually broken, then that proves that what Makoto said is right.
Well, my goddamn handbook works just fine!
See? Look! Makoto was wrong after all! Mondo wouldn't hurt a fly!
I'm sure Mondo's handbook broke during their sauna shutdown if I can just prove that. And that will show that the handbook Mondo has must actually be,
Let's test Makoto's assertion.
Okay, how
If
do I
what he says is
tell the
correct,
games?
then Mondo, you broke your own handbook.
In other words, then that proves that what
Well, my goddamn handbook works just fine!
See? Makoto was wrong after all!
Meh. Okay, where do I put anything? Wait.
Let's test Makoto's assertion. If what he says is you broke your own handbook.
In other words,
Broken handbook says... It is assumed that the broken handbook is Leon's. However, Monokuma claims it's unlikely that Leon's handbook would have broken.
then that proves that what Makoto said.
Well, my goddamn handbook works just fine!
Okay, yeah.
No, that's wrong. Mondo, the handbook you have right now, is it really yours?
The fuck is that supposed to mean?
The broken handbook that was in the main hall, isn't that one actually yours?
What the heck are you talking about?
What I mean is, I think Mondo swapped his handbook out for one that actually works. I think he took Leon's handbook and replaced it with his own. After all, Monokuma said himself that Leon's handbook never should have broken.
That's right! The punishment it suffered wasn't nearly enough to destroy it.
So then, the broken handbook in the main hall is actually Mondo's, which would mean that the handbook Mondo has right now is actually Leon's, yes?
But doesn't that violate the school regulation that says loaning out your handbook is prohibited?
Well, here's how I look at it. There is a rule about loaning your handbook to another student, but if they're dead, they're not a student. It's kind of a gray area, I admit. But no worries. If anything, it just makes things more interesting. As such, I decree that exchanging handbooks with a corpse is not a violation of the rules.
Well, Mondo, if I'm wrong about this, you're welcome to say so. I'm happy to admit I made a mistake, but...
Son of a bitch. What's wrong, bro? Come on! Tell him he's wrong! You are wrong! You have to be wrong! Everything you just said is wrong! You made it all up!
Okay, then why don't we look back on this case one more time, from the beginning? That way, everything will become clear, and we'll all see if I was right or wrong.
Okay, let's do this. Celeste saw Chihiro in the warehouse with a duffel bag and... This? Okay. Probably is. Act 2. There's something everyone has that you need to get into the locker rooms. What room did Chihiro go into? Weapon the killer used was... America placed some blood splatter onto something. To disguise the truth, the killer switched around the carpet as well as something else. What is this? Killer took something from the other locker room and switched it at the scene of the crime. What? Then come Byakuya. What was it that Byakuya brought to the murder scene? Could only have been... When Byakuya arrived on the scene, what did he use to disguise what had happened? Where did the killer go after they were done? Ah. Okay, that's what's going here, that's fine. Okay.
The killer is you! First, let's take a look back to before the incident. Last night, Celeste saw Chihiro in the warehouse, correct? At the time, she was apparently stuffing something into a duffel bag. That something was a blue tracksuit. You can confirm this, right, Celeste? With bag in hand, Chihiro headed out, even though it was officially nighttime. She made her way to the locker room, specifically the boys' locker room. But how could the victim, who was apparently a girl, access the boys' locker room?
Oh, fuck. Okay, das war falsch.
The killer is you! With bag in hand,
Okay.
she made her way to... But how?
Okay.
Simple. Because she was really a he. Which is why he was able to use his own e-handbook to gain entrance to the boys' locker room. Once inside, he met with someone there. And the person he met was the one who killed him. It seems likely that the killer grabbed the nearby dumbbell, approached the unsuspecting Chihiro, and attacked him. And that's where the bloodstains on the poster and carpeting in the boys' locker room came from. It was likely in the heat of the moment. The body was arranged, but the murder itself felt unplanned. which is why the killer hurried to try and hide the act. First, pulling up the bloodstained carpet, then removing the bloody poster, and finally carrying the corpse into the girls' locker room. A girl's handbook was necessary to get into the locker room, of course, but this alone doesn't prove that the killer was necessarily a girl. After all, Sayaka and Junko's handbooks had been placed in the main hall. Using one of those, a boy could get into the girls' locker room without much problem. And that's exactly how the killer did it. With the carpet and the poster they brought with them, they got to work. They changed the layout of the boys' and girls' locker room in what you might call a crime scene switch. That could have been the end of things, but no. Byakuya discovered the body and decided to intervene in the situation, making things even more complicated. So, after stumbling on the crime scene, he went and grabbed the extension cord from the library, and then he got to work. He used the cord to string up Chihiro's lifeless body. Then, using the victim's own blood, he left a grisly message there at the scene of the crime. He wanted to create the illusion that Genocide Jack was responsible for the slaughter. And around the same time that Byakuya was putting together this facade, the killer, having already disposed of Chihiro's bag and other belongings, arrived at the sauna.
No, it's pink blood in the original game as well. It's just the stylistic choice, I guess.
There, they planned to destroy the last piece of evidence, Chihiro's handbook. And just as the killer expected, the steamy sauna was enough to ruin the electronic gadget. Somehow, the killer knew that the handbook couldn't stand up to the heat of the sauna. And the reason they knew that is because the sauna had already wrecked their own handbook. And that's how it all played out. Isn't that right, Mondo Orada?
Wait! No! This can't be right! Where's your evidence? Yeah! Where's your evidence? You need evidence! You need proof! Without any proof, you can't pin any of this on him!
Evidence that Mondo is the killer that already revealed itself earlier in the trial. If I can somehow show where Mondo's handbook is right now. Once I do that, everything will become clear. A new element has been added to bullet time battles. Let's talk a little about fever time and nega time. During a bullet time battle, if you press the layer key, the space key, fever time will activate and the tempo will be forced to its max. At this point, even if you push the buttons at random, you won't miss. So you can push however you want to destroy the opponent's verbal assault. But this only lasts until your focus gauge runs out, so make the best possible use of your time. Of course, it wouldn't be fair if only you got access to special time, right? So we've also prepared something called nega time that your opponent can use. If the opponent activates nega time during the bullet time battle, your tempo marker will disappear, making it quite a bit tougher to hit the buttons in rhythm. If you were to activate fever time at this point, no, never mind, I'm sure nothing would happen. I don't know why I was worried about. Oh shit, I can't save. Unsurprisingly, if your action difficulty is set to gentle, the opponent won't use nega time. Shit, I already save. Well then, good luck and have fun. How were the controls?
Show me some evidence! You're wrong! I won't listen! I refute you! False!
Huh.
Show me some evidence! I won't listen! False! I refuse to vote! Show me some evidence! You're wrong! I won't listen! I refute you! False! some evidence. I won't listen. False. You're corrupt. I refuse to vote. Show me some evidence.
This should prove it.
If my thinking so far is right, Mondo must have replaced his broken handbook with Leon's. In which case, we can just check each of our handbooks right now. Once we do that, we'll...
We don't gotta do that.
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I did it. I killed him.
Dankeschön. 83 Münzen.
Bro, what are you saying?
Poor Taka.
I got no choice, man. After hearing all that, I gotta just... give up. Go ahead, Monokuma. Get it over with. Ask for the goddamn verdict.
Roger that.
Wait! Hold on!
No waiting, no holding on. Time for the moment we've all been waiting for. Grab your lever and give it a yank! Who will you elect as the Blackened this time around? Will you make the right choice or the dreadfully wrong one? What's it gonna be? What's it gonna be? What?
Uh-oh, this time it looks like you got it right again. Yes, it is so. The Blackened that killed Chihiro Fujisaki was... Mondo Owada. In case you're wondering, the vote was not unanimous. Kiyotaka chose the wrong answer. You're treading very close to the danger zone, Mr. Ishimaru. You need to be more careful. I refuse to believe it. There's no way. No way you would kill someone.
Sorry.
What is this?
Why are you apologizing? Why? 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 Why did you do it? Holy shit.
Now then.
Well, it looks like Mono's taken a vow of silence, so allow me to explain on his behalf.
Actually...
The story of the murder this time is the sad story of two men. But for anyone who doesn't really want to hear it, you can hit the control key to fast forward the text. Anyway, there was once a young boy, and his name was Chihiro Fujisaki. He had an extreme inferiority complex regarding his own lack of strength. You're so weak even though you're a boy. He'd heard things like that as long as he could remember, and he couldn't overcome his weakness. On the contrary, he tried to hide and bury himself further and further to that weakness, to take on the fragile form of a petite young girl. He had chosen that as his way out. Now nobody will be able to say anything about even though you're a boy. But no matter how tightly he wrapped himself up in that shell, the inferiority complex had already taken root deep inside of him and was not so easily weeded out. As it turned out, the shell was completely empty. The complex didn't disappear, instead it only grew stronger and stronger. I'm weak.
Weak, 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 weak.
Once the killing game had begun here at the school, he had no choice but to accept this fact. After all, this world is survival of the fittest. If you're not strong, you don't survive. And then the lovely and hateful Monokuma announced the revealing of the embarrassing secrets, which of course included Chihiro's embarrassing secret, which I was more than willing to divulge. Even though he dresses like a girl, Chihiro is actually a boy.
Hey,
That was something Chihiro couldn't let anyone find out, no matter the cost. If that was revealed, it would be the end. The hardened shell would crack, the armor would fall away. Without a doubt, those around him would torture him more than ever before. Everyone figured being thrust into such a dilemma must have sent him spiraling into despair.
What?
And yet...
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I don't really want to talk about it right now. But I also don't want to leave things the way they are, so maybe I can talk about it later, after I try my best to become strong. Then I can tell everyone. Das hat er tatsächlich gesagt, ja. Annoyingly, he used the threat of discovery to motivate himself to become stronger.
That's right.
Now's my chance.
I want to change.
I'm going to get stronger and accept who I am. Strong enough so that when someone says, even though you're a boy, I'll be okay, I'll get better. With that thought at the front of his mind, he resolved to take immediate action. And so... that day he made the commitment to begin exercising. He was prepared to retrain his mind and body. But sadly, that would be the first and only chance he would get at it.
Hey,
When he decided to start exercising, he thought it would be good to ask for someone's help. But he wanted to tell that person his secret first and then ask them to help him from there. And the person he went to...
Yeah, that's right.
It was me. It sure was. The biker gang fella had been painfully clear about how important his manly promises were. So Chihiro probably figured that even if he confided in Mondo, his honor would make him keep the secret. Plus, Mr. Macho Mondo was the very symbol of a strong man that Chihiro had always aspired to. Maybe talking to Mondo about it will help give me some courage. So he went and asked Mondo to help him become strong. That was his aspiration, and he thought that only with Mondo's support would he ever be able to come close to that.
Correct.
So then that must be why Mondo did what he did, to keep the promise he'd made to Chihiro. Huh? Did what he did? You mean... Oh, that's why Mondo carried Chihiro from the boys' locker room into the girls' locker room.
Indeed.
Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Wasn't that to cover up what he'd done?
Certainly.
That could have been part of it, but I don't think it was the main reason. The real purpose was to keep the promise between men he had made to Chihiro. But how does moving the body keep his secret?
Because
if everyone knew he'd been killed in the boys' locker room, then everyone would have been arguing about how she got into the boys' locker room, right? Once that started up, at least a few of us would have immediately begun to suspect his identity. So, he tried to protect Chihiro's secret by putting him in the girls' locker room and stealing his handbook, see? Then Mondo did all that to keep the promise he'd made to Chihiro, who he had also killed. Why would he do that? The more I hear you talk, the more I don't understand. I mean, you guys trusted each other, right? So why? Why did you? Because, no matter what, I didn't want anyone to know.
I knew it.
Well, that's what triggered it after all. The possibility of having your embarrassing memories and secrets exposed.
What is this?
That's impossible. Nothing could have been that bad. Something he didn't want anyone to know, even if it meant killing someone.
You're wrong!
It's impossible.
Don't make me repeat myself.
How many times must I repeat myself? To judge others by your own standard is the height of folly. Even if you can't comprehend it, he obviously can. That's all there is to it. Well, while we're on the subject, why don't I tell you that embarrassing memory, that secret he didn't want anyone to know?
Hey,
You know what Mondo did?